Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video where today we return with round 14 of the F1 2001 career mode. Yes, we're back this weekend here for the US Grand Prix in Texas. Of course, if you missed out on the video that went live over the weekend, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. We've got just 3 races to go of the season, and I want to try and get them all done this week if things run smoothly. So yeah, like I said, 3 rounds left of this absolutely wild campaign that we've seen so far this season. Currently, Jacques Villeneuve has a 23-point lead at the top of the table after quite a lot of McLaren controversy last weekend. David Coulthard closing in on me towards the end of the Grand Prix for just his 2nd race victory of the year. I thought the team would turn to hold station, and with 2 laps to go, DC decided to send it. So we lost out on what might well be 7 critical points come the end of the year, and if I lose the World Championship by 7 points, then I know what I'm going to be blaming. I still have not won a race since Monaco, all the way back in round 4 of the campaign, so consistency has really just kept us in this fight against Jacques. Goal number 1 is get to Brazil, still with a shot at the world title. Goal number 2 is to try and beat him here in Mexico and also, here in the US and in Mexico, to try and make sure that gap is as small as we possibly can. Of course, get yourself subscribed if you're new. We're trying to hit 140,000 subs as well here on the channel. But yeah, let's head out then onto the Texas circuit. Fingers crossed the car's got pace. Well, it certainly would have been interesting to see what track limits would have been like around this venue if this place had existed in the early 2000s, because, well, track limits didn't really exist in Formula 1. It would probably look something like when IndyCar races here as well in recent years. But yeah, once again, I'm hoping this is going to be a decent track for the car. Maybe not as good as like Suzuka was, but I'm hoping, yeah, especially through like the S's and things like that here, that we can try and get a good run. Of course, David Coulthard has been very, very competitive with those Williams. It might actually be Sector 3 where this car comes alive as well. But of course, yeah, we're not going to, enforce strict track limits around here. We're not going to allow people just to do whatever they want. But we're going to hopefully still have a good, fun, and ideally not controversial weekend around this circuit then as we make our way out onto the back straight. We're actually a long way back down the order right now. Qualifying has not been my strong point, but as always, we have set the car up strictly for race pace. So hopefully, even if we qualify a little bit further down than I'd like, we're still able to capitalise as we move into the GP there as well. A little bit of rear locking as we try and make our way in through this tight switchback section of Sector 3. David Coulthard, can he try and make it a 2nd pole position in Prix-Grand Prix? This should be where our car absolutely comes alive. They're trying to balance it on the throttle through that section of corners. They're a little bit wide through the penultimate corner, but we have reined back in the time against our teammate. They're out of the final corner. Where are we going to be on the grid? It is P3. I am very happy with that. The entire grid actually pretty bunched up around this circuit. It really does feel like, yeah, those upgrades we brought to the McLaren car recently have brought us right back in line with Williams. Jos Verstappen only half a second off pole there, just ahead of Michael Schumacher and Marc Genet. Hakkinen down in P15, that's not so much of a surprise, but the fact that the top 16 cars only covered by 1.5 seconds, there was a lot of races this year where nobody could get within a second of Williams.
With Texaco. Here we are then in one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, the fabulous Austin, in the great state of Texas. The circuit itself 14 miles southeast of the city centre and home to the US Grand Prix since 2012. The latest in a long list of iconic tracks to have that honour. We're racing today then in Travis County, Texas, around the 20 corners of the wonderful Circuit of the Americas. We'll be reaching speeds of around 200 miles an hour, and there are plenty of good opportunities to pass, especially through the two DRS zones into Turn 1 and the very long back straight into Turn 12. Anthony Davidson also joins me in the commentary box today. Let's talk about Mr. Monaco. They've been involved in a number of costly incidents lately. That's got to affect their mindset going into this race.
It's not an ideal situation by any means. When you get into a bad run like that, there's always a risk of frustration creeping in, which can cause more mistakes and locks you into this vicious cycle. Hopefully today they can get through Turn 1 cleanly and stay calm for the rest of the race.
Just 3 races left. You can still win the driver's title, but you need a strong performance. Come on, let's give it our best shot.
Well, Jeff there is always giving us some motivation, but yeah, not too sure. I mean, I guess Anthony Davidson, why have I suddenly forgot his name? That's really alarming. I've suddenly forgot. David Croft, of course. Obviously, I only had David Coulthard in my head. But yeah, we got a penalty in Belgium. That was, I think, a little bit harsh. We got a penalty in Monza. That one was a little bit more fair. And then obviously we had that mechanical failure in Singapore. But Japan last weekend ran pretty smoothly, although we did crash into our teammate very, very temporarily. But anyway, 5 red lights on the grid, though, here in Texas. Hopefully we can keep it clean. 5 red lights, and it's going to be lights out. Oh, and away we go there, off to a fairly bad start. Look at Jos Verstappen going straight past us. Might even try and get past Villeneuve into Turn 1. Nope, Schumacher's going to send it. And I think Villeneuve's been involved. No way! We've somehow managed to escape all of that, but there has been chaos at Turn 1. Well, let's take a look at this then from Michael Schumacher's point of view in towards that first corner. The second Sauber actually go down the inside of him there. So that was Genet as well, wasn't it? In towards Turn 1. Far too late on the brake. Straight into the side of Villeneuve. And our big championship rival out of the Grand Prix there. Every other car having to just sprawl to avoid it all down in towards Turn 1 there. I mean, we were 4 wide temporarily. I just backed out of it. All the chaos on the inside. McLaren suddenly have got a 1-2. And suddenly our chances of a world championship have swung back in our favour. Look how many cars are having to sprawl everywhere to try and get around the chaos. They normally say fortune favours the brave, but, well, down into Turn 1, we were certainly not brave, and fortune certainly still favoured us here as we get ready to go green flag racing once again here in Texas. I mean, we have got a golden opportunity down at McLaren, and, well, let's not forget, there is still a Constructors' Championship at play. Admittedly, I thought we were basically out of it, but especially with Frentzen way down the order as well, and Villeneuve obviously gone, that has suddenly been made a whole lot easier, as we almost go and drop it down in Turn 1 by ourselves. That could have been very, very bad, even if Fisichella had just ran into the side of me or something. So what I've got to done, rather kindly, just given Coulthard a little bit of room to manoeuvre. And then we'll try and just settle into our own pace. That was definitely what I was trying to do there.
VSC deployed. The virtual safety car has been deployed. We need to keep a positive delta here. Slow down, maintain a positive delta.
I think that's Hakkinen. Well, he certainly wasn't Hakkinen, sorry. It was our old teammate Johnny Herbert down in towards the final couple of corners of Sector 2. And I mean, he's under pressure from Hakkinen. That's why I thought it was the Ferrari. But just completely missed his braking point. The Arrow somehow survives that one, but another car out of this Grand Prix. Well, if we were to bag a 1-2 in this GP and Frentzen came third, it would still mean we take nearly another 30 points out of Williams in the Constructors. I mean, that still seems like a tall order, but with a little bit of bad luck on their side recently, the momentum is definitely swinging, especially with how quick David Coulthard's looking towards the end of the year. I mean, he's been quick quite often this campaign. He's just had so many retirements. It would be nice if we could somehow drag that out as well to Brazil, even if we needed basically a miracle. We know we can go quicker than DC then around this circuit. Frentzen has appeared on the relative now, so obviously happy that we were able to qualify him But it is going to be interesting to see whether the race pace is going to be enough to hold the Williams back as well. I mean, he's still trying to find his way through some of the slightly slower traffic. But yeah, that gap already up to about 5 seconds as... Well, yeah, we didn't really feel like we had a pace advantage over DC last weekend. Here, it really feels like we might, as we already have crossed 1/3 distance then of this GP. I mean, Coulthard and I, the gap is just staying level in the big picture at the moment, holding at about 2 seconds. I think we're starting to enter a game of chicken of who will pit first in this Grand Prix, because I don't think either of us want to be the one to deal with some of the other traffic. But yeah, Frentzen, he can't even find a way around Giancarlo Fisichella right now. That Benetton's pace looks very, very good around this circuit.
We're coming in this lap.
His team want me into the pits at the end of this lap. I don't think that's going to happen. But I really can't work out whether Coulthard's just pushing a lot extra or I'm just getting a little bit slower at this stage of the race, because he's opened up that gap now suddenly to just over 3 seconds here. I want to believe he'll be into the pits at the end of this lap. We're starting to see some other cars in, and I'm just going to try to extend this stint. If we get a safety car or something like that, fantastic. But otherwise, I just don't want to have to deal with slower traffic. There we go. DC is in. David Coulthard into the pit lane then. So for the first time this afternoon, we're going to take the lead of the Grand Prix. I mean, he's just set a fastest lap on the way into the pits there. That surely can't count. But yeah, Frentzen, though, the gap's floating still at about 5 seconds. He's now up into P3, and he is going to try and extend as well. And looking at that, then, Coulthard has not come out in traffic. David Coulthard has come out in clear air, so McLaren have nailed that pit stop for our teammate. We would have been a little bit potentially caught out by Alexander Wurz behind him. So it's a good job we didn't pit first. I want to know where this pace has been for Coulthard when Jacques Villeneuve's been the one to beat. Why is it suddenly now when I'm battling him for victories is David Coulthard suddenly becoming rapid inside this game, but in through into the pit lane?
3-second penalty
No!
for obvious corner cutting.
Well, that might really do us damage by the end of the afternoon. 3-second penalty for corner cutting as we make our way in. So that's going to, yeah, really set us back towards the end of the afternoon. But yeah, whatever we got to do, we just got to try and get back on with it. As Coulthard, another new fastest lap of the Grand Prix. I'm hoping we come out ahead of Alexander Wurz, who has also got a penalty. I would assume that was for the chaos at turn 1.
If you cross over into the track.
Although admittedly, yeah, Wurz wasn't really involved in that. So suddenly Frentzen now has got a bit of a lifeline. He doesn't actually need to get past me. He just needs to stay within 3 seconds by the flag.
Safety car
Oh,
deployed. The
no!
safety car has been deployed.
Oh man, we got another car gone and we got a safety car. I mean, I've got no idea what's going on here between the two Arrows cars. Just down the inside of turn 1 and a little bit of contact, and well, one of them's gone. Couldn't even tell you which one it is, to be completely honest. We'd probably get a better look from the Minardi behind. Oh yeah, just met in the middle on pit lane exit. It's a really clumsy one, but of course it happens just after I pit. We are still technically in a race against the clock then as we make our way through these final couple of corners, because Frentzen now will obviously dive into the pit lane, and Coulthard and I are going to have to drive below the delta here, or we're meant to drive below the delta. As through the final corner, Coulthard will close back in on your leader. Will we still be ahead of Frentzen? I think we should be, but only just. Barely just over 10 laps left then of the US Grand Prix here, and unless we can find a way around Coulthard really quickly and then try and pull away, we are really just at the whims of the pace of the cars around us here, because Frentzen behind, I think to pull a 3-second gap on him towards the checkered flag is not going to be easy then. Got to be ready to go right behind DC then. Maybe we could try and look for a move down in towards turn 1. I'm certainly not going to risk too much either there, as out of the final corner will go. Oh, look at that, Coulthard, he has made an error. So Coulthard went and then had to back out of the throttle. So we might be side by side in turn 1. He's got way more straight line speed than me. But we have got way more downforce in towards that first corner. David Coulthard there barely gives me the room on the inside line. Frentzen thought about it on the exit, but will leave us just to battle it out as the top two there. But that was our opportunity to try and get past David Coulthard. Just did not have the confidence that he was going to give me the space there. And well, the last thing we need was a crash that could potentially invite Frentzen to an easy Grand Prix victory here. But can we keep the pressure up? Could we maybe find a way around him if we can force him into an error? Well, I really found that earlier on this year, the McLaren was such a slippery car. It would slide around far too much if obviously we didn't run enough aerodynamics on it. It feels like obviously because we were running more aero that we had a big advantage over DC. But later on this year, where the power figures have continued to climb, and obviously the aero and the chassis, we have made big improvements. It feels now that, yeah, David Coulthard's more straight line orientated setups are really, really working for him here. I'll be honest, the annoying bit for me, I think we'll be able to keep Frentzen back to the checkered flag, but that penalty will force us behind him. As long as we get a 3-second gap over Ralf Schumacher, that's kind of the one I'm more looking at right now, because there's just not a lot else I can do. I mean, how on earth is Coulthard doing that? 37.8 out of nowhere towards the end of this race. The only thing I am noticing is that Frentzen just starting to struggle to keep up with the relentless pace of both our cars. That gap was up to 1.4. Could we somehow stretch that? Well, if this is a sign to things to come in the future, David Coulthard, he could be about to make our 2002 season very, very uncomfortable. Oh, we got yellows, we got yellows. Someone's got issues. That's not Coulthard in front, I don't think. Oh no, we're good again. I think, yeah, no, Frentzen's gone. So Williams, they're not going to get either car to the checkered flag, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen is out of this race. I mean, looking at it then, he hasn't had any accident, he hasn't done anything else, but Williams' reliability suddenly, towards the end of the year, is going to haunt them. Villeneuve out lap 1, Frentzen out with not long to go. Well, as I was saying, yeah, if Coulthard can keep this pace up in towards next season, then, well, we could be in for a bit of McLaren civil war. But, I mean, yeah, on a larger championship scale, DC has been with this team through thick and thin. Can't help but feel they might show him a little bit of loyalty for his many, many years of dedication and hard work. Sadly for me, though, well, actually, sorry, gladly for me, though, with Frentzen gone, does mean we're under much less pressure towards the checkered flag. We're just not going to be able to beat DC. But it looks like, yeah, McLaren should be pretty safe for back-to-back 1-2s. No, that might really screw us towards the end of the GP. I believe this is going to be the Benetton then of Giancarlo Fisichella as he makes his way out onto the back straight. Oh, it's the Jordan in front of him, sorry. Engine's gone, and Fisichella's just gone into him. He's just driven at him. What on earth is that by Giancarlo Fisichella? You can see the Jordan up in front having to retire from the race as well. That's Ralf Schumacher, but a late safety car, and our penalty might completely screw us again. We're getting ready to go green flag racing then with just 2 laps to go now here in Texas. This has ended up being a very, very crash-driven race, to be honest. 10 cars left running. Häkkinen's almost on for a podium here, which would be quite an impressive feat based on the season he's had, but we just need to try and run away from Barrichello, Häkkinen and Wirtz behind. I'm not going to try and challenge DC. I just want him to get on with it and hope that we can follow in hot pursuit there. Is he going to make the same mistake as he did last time round at that final corner? Looks like he's able to get the power down a little bit better that time. So we're going to try and bolt with him here. Barrichello already 7/10 back. So we make our way in towards turn 1, but we need to pull out over a second a lap because we've got to get that gap back to 3. Oh no, Häkkinen's moved up into P2. Actually, that might work well for us. That might work really, really nicely for me because Häkkinen, I'm sure, will not be able to keep that car anywhere near the apexes. So if those two can start battling behind, maybe, just maybe, there's a chance here. But in fact, no, look at that. Häkkinen is managing it. How suddenly is that Ferrari able to be driven here? We'll still gain a little bit of time on corner exit. Maybe it's just through the higher speed stuff he struggles. Yes, he does. You can see immediately that gap rockets up to about 1.3, 1.4 seconds then. But starting the last lap of the US Grand Prix, and well, David Coulthard, it didn't quite all go his way last weekend, but certainly here, things have worked out fantastically for him. And I tell you what, he's had a terrible year this season, but heading into 2002, he could be one to watch. I think if he can just clean up some of his battling wheel to wheel with other cars, then he has got a fantastic opportunity if McLaren can keep the pace and keep the momentum that we've developed towards the end of this year. Gap to Hakkinen behind, up to about 2.3. We're still going to need a little bit more, though, by the end of the race, especially as Barrichello is still hanging onto his gearbox. This might be critical come the end of the year. We're going to take points out of Villeneuve, but the question is, how many points can we take out of the Canadian here? David Coulthard, again, he's not going to play the team game. He's just interested in trying to get as many wins as he can on the board before the end of the year there. The gap to Hakkinen, back under 2. He will gain masses of time down that back straight. You still cannot compete with Italian horsepower inside this game at the moment, but as we navigate our way through the final few corners, we've just got to try and nail our lines, do everything we possibly can, just get round to that checkered flag in the quickest way possible. Will it be enough though? Gap to Barrichello's up to 2.8 seconds, so we might be able to stay ahead of him there. 3 seconds. The gap goes up to Rubens, but what's Hakkinen doing? Through the final couple of corners, we just need to nail the apex. DC's going to take the win. Will it be P2? Will it be P3? It is 3rd.
So, another fantastic victory for the Silver Arrows. So, Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
Well, they played the safety car to absolute perfection. There are so many factors to worry about once the race is neutralised. I mean, do you pit for fresh rubber? Do you have the space behind you? How much fuel can you save? If you answer all of those questions correctly, you'll have a good chance. And that's exactly what happened today.
After an excellent performance at the Grand Prix, I'm sure there'll be plenty of celebrations tonight amongst the Mercedes team. And they certainly deserve it.
There we go then, when all is said and done, we didn't finish P3. Somehow Barrichello just able to hang on in the end, so that pit stop blunder that we made proved critical come the end of the GP there. He hung on by just 0.2 of a second. Hakkinen, though, definitely my driver of the day, 14th on the grid to P2 come the checkered flag there. Jaguar, I mean, both cars inside the top 5 is very good going, especially when you factor in both McLarens there as well. But yeah, that means we've taken a lot of points out of Williams in the championship. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. Raikkonen, Button, Wirtz, and then both Minardis as well, seeing the checkered flag. So a handful of points for them come the end of the GP. Both Jordans, both Williams, both Saubers, the Benetton of Giancarlo Fisichella, Johnny Herbert, Juan Pablo Montoya, and Michael Schumacher all failing to see the checkered flag. But that means in terms of the Drivers' Championship, the gap has been cut again now just to 11 points with 2 races to go. It is pretty much now a 2-horse race. Coulthard is mathematically out of it. He has been for a little while. But Heinz-Harald Frentzen as well basically needs Villeneuve and I to crash into each other in these last couple of GPs. Barrichello still in P5 will extend that gap over Michael Schumacher, as the battle actually between the Schumachers still raging on towards the end of the year there. And yeah, Hakkinen with that result will leapfrog himself up into P13. Still not great for a Ferrari driver inside this game there, as Alonso now tied with Montoya down in P19. Constructors-wise, though, the gap down to 34. So if Williams continues to have some more stinkers towards the end of the year, we could definitely get to Brazil with a chance at that title. Benetton and Jordan, apparently Jordan are up now into P6 as well. There is 4 points in it still between Sauber and Ferrari. I'm just hoping Jaguar hang on to P3 as well there. But thank you all so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed. A very chaotic race here from Texas, but we'll be back very soon ready for the Mexican Grand Prix.